So hello gamers, today I'm going to be showing you the top 10 best Phantom Forces tips for beginners. These are simple tips that beginners should definitely know. However, some high ranks might not also know these, so maybe you'll get something out of it regardless. So make sure to watch till the end. Let's go for 1,000 likes, but let's get into it. Now, a lot of people do know about like the AMT Terminator and stuff and how you can alt aim, but did you know you can press T to alt aim? A lot of people already know this. However, there's a lot that goes into it. First off, a ton of guns have alt aim, including the FALs. Basically every single LMG, even PDWs like the PPSH and the P90 have it. As you can see with a FAL, I can actually use alt aim whenever I want to. The AMT Terminator also alt aims. However, if you are running something like a canted ACOG, you can switch to the canted ACOG with an AMT Terminator, which is kind of helpful. You want to be able to actually scope and have an AMT Terminator at the same time. And that's really cool. Keep in mind, there are also a lot of different scopes that have alternate aims in the scope, like built in. So basically, let's say I had like the Colt LMG and I was using the PKA, for example. Like this is a normal sight. A lot of people know about this, but not a lot of people know that you can do this. This can be pretty helpful, you know, you got an actual scope on the gun instead of kind of just like a weird thing. Also, I didn't realize there's actual snow. That's so cool. So yeah, just try it around with different guns, different scopes. Lots of different things have it. For example, basically every single high zoom sight that's not like a built-in sniper scope has an alternate aim, like the PSO1 and stuff. They have like a less zoomed in version, which can kind of be helpful in some scenarios, I guess. But yeah, basically that's how you do it. Very simple. A lot of people don't know about this. People are always like, how do you do the thing where you aim down the side of your gun? So there you go. Pretty simple one. A lot of beginners will know that, but it's kind of helpful. Now for our next tip, we just have super jumping. A lot of people don't know about this. Basically just sprint and press space and X at the same time and you super jump. It's very simple. It might take a little bit of getting used to. You can also just press X, but you don't go as far. And if you press space and X and then right click, you can actually cancel a super jump, but not like fully cancel. It doesn't just go back. You actually just are able to do the super jump, but not end up in prone. But if you want to end up in prone, nice tip. A lot of people don't like ever not cancel the super jump, but maybe it'll be helpful to like be down like here, you know, when you're prone, a lot of people can't hit you because you're just like a small target and they're just like, oh, I'm gonna aim it like his head, but you can't because your head is on the ground. Might be helpful in some scenarios. But basically, that is how you super jump. Very simple. If you guys want an advanced movement guide, let me know in the comments. But yeah, another very simple tip is basically just press F and wow, that is incredibly effective. Basically, if you don't have your melee out and you want to get it out very fast and then switch back to your gun, basically just press F. Very simple. However, you might not know this. If you hold down F, it will permanently switch to your melee. And heavy melees can only be used if you hold F. If you just do this, nothing happens. However, you have to do this. Otherwise, you won't get any reach, right? And with the heavy melee, since you have to hold F to really use them, it will permanently switch to your melee, which can be quite annoying. If you have a heavy melee out, just remember you have to hold F to really use it. I think you can still hit people, but you just can't really get the full reach, which is pretty annoying, but you do get like a separate attack, as you can see. Like it's different from both my right and my left click attacks, but in general, you'll probably just have to press F. And if you want to switch to it permanently, just hold F instead of having to like press 3 or something, you know? Another simple one is people are always like, how do you move your hand like that? All you gotta do, you gotta press E and just look at a guy. And yes, there has to be some guy in that direction, but basically it will spot them. If you've ever noticed like people have like red dots, as you can see through walls, that means somebody on your team has spotted them for you. And if you want to spot them and help your team and also help you find people, pressing E is very simple. As I said in tips and tricks 3, somebody's always in the direction of where you're pressing E, regardless of whether the dot shows up, because sometimes it doesn't due to a bug. And yeah, there will always be a guy in that direction if your hand moves at all, which is really cool because you can actually figure out, like if I'm just looking around, I'm like, there's nobody over here, press E, nobody over here. And I'm like, oh, now I can see this guy over here. So you should be able to tell where people are very, very easily without really having to like look around too much. And you can just be like, okay, yeah, there's guys there. Good player. Good player. Something that I did forget to mention about super jumping is that normally you throw a grenade like this. However, if you super jump, it'll go a lot farther and have a lot more velocity. So if you're cooking the nade, it'll actually hit its target a lot faster, which means you can basically cook a nade into like the last millisecond and just kill a guy. It's very annoying to cook nades and do this because it's like the control scheme is a little bit off, but you want to get a little bit of extra flight time on nades and a little bit like more range from nades. If you watch any other channel that's like really good with nades, they're going to be throwing that nade so far and always super jump it because it just goes farther, you know? There's really no downside to doing it. So another thing that's very important is advanced stats. I have a full guide on this. Basically, advanced stats are very important. Like a lot of stats here you can't see but are very, very important. For example, the M3A1, it does 48 damage, so it can only 3-hit kill, right? What people don't realize is it has a torso multi, which means it can actually 2-shot to the body, but you probably wouldn't know that without looking at advanced statistics. Also, the muzzle velocity is very low, which means your bullets have a lot of drop, and you wouldn't know that unless you actually looked at the stats. So please look at the stats from time to time. time. Try to get familiar with them because whenever a new gun comes out, I immediately know how good the gun is just based off of the stats and like how the recoil works and stuff. And if you can actually look at a gun and decide whether or not it's good without even having to use the gun, that can be incredibly helpful for new guns and purchasing new conversions and seeing what's good. And if you have to like pre-buy a gun, you don't have to just ask some random dude every single time, you know? You can actually decide whether statistically it's better than the gun you currently have, or just in general, just know the downsides of a gun without having to like look up a YouTube guide every single time, you know? Another tip that's kind of helpful is you can press Q and you can actually aim without having to right click. Keep in mind it's toggle, so actually if I let go of the key, it doesn't actually end the aim, it just keeps aiming until I press Q again, which can be kind of annoying. You can right click to cancel it as well. As you know, right click is a hold thing, so you don't actually have to like press right click one time and press it again to aim out. You can just let go of right click, which in my opinion is a lot easier. But there is something very helpful with Q, which is that if you play on a trackpad, which I don't really recommend, but I can understand it, some people just don't have a mouse. If you press Q, you can actually aim and shoot, because on a trackpad, generally speaking, you can't aim and shoot at the same time because you can't press right and left click at the same time. So if you're having trouble with the game because of that, try out Q. It's going to be kind of helpful, or just use a shotgun because you don't really have to aim with a shotgun. But honestly, I would just prefer to use Q and actually be able to use like a sniper rifle or something. And yeah, fun fact about that, legendary Matiko, who's like the 3rd highest ranked player, and at one point he was the highest ranked player in the entire game, he actually did play using Q to aim, which is actually kind of insane because he was the highest ranked player in the game while having an Apple mouse that can't actually right click. So that's pretty crazy, man. A good tip for new players is please increase your FOV. I keep mine at 105. However, you can go all the way to 120. No, you can go higher than that. If you put in 0, it goes like really high for FOV. Not necessary at all. I don't recommend using this FOV. It just doesn't feel good to me. It feels very zoomed out and kind of annoying. I play on 105 FOV, but please do not play on default FOV. Default FOV is not bad. It's 80 FOV, which is pretty good, honestly, but like, please do not turn it down. Please turn up your FOV. You don't have to turn it up a lot. I don't play on a high FOV, but you gotta play a little bit higher than average because normal FOV is just kind of inconvenient. Another thing is, if you're a new player, you should probably not be using certain low kill attachments. For example, the vertical grip, suppressors, maybe the flash hider. Honestly, it's just vertical grip and suppressors and maybe like H and K sight and stuff, because basically vertical grip does actually increase your recoil, as you can see, kind of a big thing on the Colt SMG. It does make your hip fire better, but most new players are probably going to just aim in every scenario, and the upsides are not really worth the downsides in general, so don't use the vertical grip. Suppressors are even worse. They have basically only downsides. The only upside is they're kind of quiet. That's literally it. They make damage worse, your range is worse, your velocity worse, your recoil worse because you can't be running a compensator instead. Basically just default to compensator. Another thing is muzzle brake is not actually that good. Compensator is usually better, so just use compensator, and please do not use muzzle brake or compensator on a sniper rifle, and especially don't use a suppressor on the intervention. I see that a lot. It actually makes it so it can't one-shot to the body anymore, which is kind of the thing about the intervention. Basically just makes like the Mark 11 better at that point. For a final tip, we have starter guns. First off, the M4A1, not with this setup though, is probably the best starter gun in the entire game, just based off of the fact that it's just so easy to use. This is my personal setup on it: Delta, Comp, Stubby, Full Stock, and 25-45. You won't have the kills for that immediately, but my 2 recommended starter secondaries are the 1911 and actually the Rex. If you're good with the Rex, then use that, but the 1911 is probably overall better. The reason I say 1911 over like Glock is because the Glock shoots a little bit fast and doesn't do a ton of damage, so unless you can hit like 2 headshots or something, or you're just really good at clicking fast and being accurate, I don't recommend the Glock, because like, even though it does pretty good damage, it can 2-shot headshot and stuff. It's just not the most powerful compared to the 1911, which is basically a 2-shot body anywhere most of the time. So as you can see, the 1911, it goes on. M4A1 and 1911 are probably like the 2 best, easiest to use starter guns, and I would say that using both of them is like even effective nowadays. Even though I'm rank almost 200, it's just like you can't really go wrong with these guns, so that's why I would recommend them most of the time. So if you need something different, you could use the Rex and the KSG, or like AK-12, Colt LMG, maybe intervention, but most of the time I really like the KSG. It's not even the best shotgun, it's just really fun to use. Probably the worst shotgun in the game, and probably the only like kind of weak starter gun, but basically you guys know shotguns. This one's very spammy, has a very big mag, and if you're very good at spamming or just hitting headshots, the MP412 Rex is also really good. Like, it is so good. It headshot kills, it 2 shots to the body, it does okay damage at range, very good recoil, especially for spamming, and it just kind of goes off, man. If you can spam and hit your shots kind of, or go for 1-shot headshots, it's very good. And of course, you got the KSG, man. That's gonna do it for the video, gamers. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to like and sub. Very important and small tips that basically any beginner probably doesn't know and should know, so make sure to like and sub, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.